The first thing we're going to tackle is our introductory paragraph. This intro paragraph applies both to your op-ed and to your research paper. So I have examples for both to show you exactly how they should be formatted and what you should put in your intro paragraphs. So the very first sentence in your intro paragraph is your hook. Your hook is supposed to grab your reader's attention. And so we talked about putting something surprising in there to pull your reader in. Your hook is highlighted. I highlighted it in yellow. And so you can see for your op-ed, it's the first sentence, and for your research paper, it's the first sentence. I think we've done a much better job, actually, on our op-ed to write kind of an exciting or interesting hook. But when I was reading your research papers, I don't think you did as good of a job making your research paper interesting right from the get-go. So I really think, especially on your research paper, you need to look at this hook today. So let's start actually with the op-ed. The op-ed, the way that I wanted to hook my reader, let's say that I'm talking about college athletes getting paid. So I said $1.5 billion is a lot of money. This is how much the NCAA made off last year's men's NCAA basketball tournament, and yet college athletes saw exactly zero. My whole point with this hook is to pull in that the NCAA makes a ton of money, and it sets me up to make my argument that college athletes should be compensated. I use this number 1.5 billion because it's a lot of money. It's a shocking number. In the same way with my research paper, let's pretend I have polar bears. And so here's what I wrote for my hook with polar bears. Polar bears are a family favorite when visiting the zoo, but soon polar bears will no longer exist in the wild, and families will have to rely on zoos to see their furry friends. Now in this one, I'm pulling in the reader's attention because people really like polar bears. They don't want to see polar bears die. And so I'm pulling them in through emotion to say that we've got to do something, otherwise the polar bears are no longer going to be around. The next sentence before my thesis, if you'll see my last sentence is my thesis, before we get there, we need another couple of sentences. This is kind of the connecting sentence. So in blue, you'll read the next few sentences. You have to make the connection between your hook and your thesis statement. You have to explain to your reader why the hook is important and how it connects with your thesis statement. So let's go back up to my op-ed example. You'll see this in blue are kind of my next couple of sentences. I shocked my reader with this big number of 1.5 billion. And then I said, colleges continue to make millions of dollars off of college players who work like professional athletes, but are not compensated fairly for their hours of hard work. This is a great connection. It leads me right into my thesis statement that I think college athletes should be paid because they act like professional athletes. This bridges the gap between this shocking statement and my thesis statement, what I actually think should happen. Likewise, if I go down to my research paper, I talked about my furry friends, but now I'm saying polar bears are dying off in high numbers because of melting polar ice caps. Their habitat is slowly being destroyed by rising temperatures, and this destruction is completely preventable. Again, I'm setting myself up. I'm connecting the shocking thing that we might not ever see polar bears in their natural habitat to my thesis statement that probably says something like fossil fuels are causing, or global warming is causing habitats to be destroyed and we have to stop. So that gets me to my last sentence, your thesis. For your research paper, it's what your whole paper is about, and for your op-ed, it's what you think about your topic. Your thesis statement's already complete, you just have to make sure that the last sentence of your intro paragraph. Last thing. Revising questions. Here are things to consider with both your op-ed and your research. Is your hook interesting? Number one, if it's not, or if you're unsure, ask a teammate. They'll tell you. Do I have two or more than two sentences? You can't just have one sentence for your hook and one sentence for your thesis statement. You have to connect them with more information, those connecting in between sentences that help to connect in the blue between your hook and your thesis. And then is my thesis statement in my last sentence, and does my thesis statement tell what my whole essay is about? Right now, I want you to consider these questions, and I want you to go back through your intro paragraph and make revisions to make your intro even stronger.